Hello, everyone. Good afternoon on one of the nicest, sunshiniest days. How you all doing? Can we have a few people pop their hellos into the chat box, which is on the right-hand side of your screens, just so that we know that we're not alone, that there are other people out there. Hey, it's lovely to see you, Roberto, Ash, Caddy, Christian, Remy, bonjour, Adam, hey, lovely to see you guys. So, and there's more and more coming in, but I won't bore everyone with repeating everyone's name, but it's really awesome that you could join us. Thank you very much for supporting our events. So what we're going to do, I'm not going to talk for long, by the way, you'll be so pleased to hear that. This webinar is all about email marketing for Amazon sellers, and we've got an amazing speaker who's part of our community, which is so awesome, in Tim, and Tim is going to share what he does with his brand, Lean Greens. And I have to admit that I am actually a Lean Greens customer. I might even be the most perfect Lean Greens customer because my original reaction to having a box of green stuff sitting in my cupboard was, that's not for me. But I do really enjoy it. By the way, I don't drink it. I put it in my yogurt.
There you go. Perfect.
And I really like it that way with a bit of muesli. It goes down extremely well, and I feel like I'm doing good for my body. It feels so great. So thank you very much.
That's right.
Cool. So we're going to make sure that you guys just know how to use this technology that we're using just very quickly. So you can all see messages in the chat, right? You can all see them, I'm pretty sure. And it's lovely to see so many people there. And then on the right-hand side, you will see that you also have questions. So if you wouldn't mind putting your questions in the questions box, that way we can gather all the questions and make sure that they all get answered. And it's so much easier to see than just this, you know, constant chatter that goes in the chat box. But hey, I'm going to hand over to Tim now. And I want you all to really enjoy this session because it's going to be great. And I'm taking notes, but you don't have to because we're recording this and the recording will be available. And also, obviously, we'll make the slides available to everyone who attended.
Cool.
Okay, over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, so before I introduce myself and all of that interesting stuff and give you the full rundown of me and get into the slides, I just want to get an idea of kind of where everybody's at, who's actually on the live call right now, whether you are completely green to email marketing, i.e. you've never done an email marketing campaign in your life, you don't collect email addresses of your customers or anything like that, or whether you're super experienced. So basically all I want you to put into the chat, if you can do me a favor, is just put in whether you are experienced or whether you're a beginner. If you could do that just now, that would be awesome. Just do it in the chat. And it just gives me an idea. Thank you, Adam. Intermediate. So beginner, intermediate, or experienced. There we go. There's 3 levels for us. It's just so I know what to concentrate on, because obviously I've created a bunch of slides and presentation which I can adapt, if you like, to fit the audience that we've got there. So we've got some beginners, we've got some intermediate, plenty of intermediates, slightly experienced beginner. That's cool. That's cool. Okay, any more for any more? So intermediates, plenty of intermediates, beginner. That's cool. Okay, so what I'm hoping for today is to give everybody something of value. If you're an expert, great. I see that Daniel has said that he's an expert. I'm hoping I can still give somebody who's an expert some of the more ninja sort of strategies and tips that I've got over the years from running my own email campaigns. So I'm going to switch over to my slides and we'll get started on that. We've got a couple of experts. That's good to see. So give me a second while I ramp up the old screen share, and it'll go all a bit funky for a second. And let's start the presentation. Shelley, if you could just confirm that you can see email marketing and list building 101 on the screen.
Oh, yes. And it's big.
It is big.
Good.
That's exactly the way we like it. Now, these slides, I don't normally do presentations at all. I run my own business, which is Lean Greens. It's a nutritional supplement brand based here in the UK. I run majority of my businesses through my own Shopify store, which I would say is probably about 80% of the business. And then on Amazon is about 20%. So I should imagine that most of you guys on here know more about Amazon than I do. You can probably teach me many, many things about Amazon. So I'm not going to teach you guys to suck eggs on that front. Hopefully what I'm going to be able to show you is a different marketing strategy that if you are both on or off of Amazon, that will help grow your business. So hopefully that's what I'm going to be presenting to you today. So obviously you've seen my face already. This is my 30-second intro of who I am and a little bit of a brief history of who I am and what I do. I used to be an IT professional many, many, many years ago. I was a nerd. I know my way around technology reasonably well. I used to be a kind of an IT project manager, if you like, and was able to translate nerd into real normal person speak, and vice versa. So which is a great skill to have, because there's plenty of nerds out there who really just shouldn't be speaking to normal people ever. I then switched careers. I had a bit of a crisis moment where I was probably going to kill my boss at my last real job. So I decided to retrain as a personal trainer. And I was a personal trainer in the city of Luxembourg for around about 8-9 years. And again, great part of my life, learned a huge amount, discovered my my audience, the people that I wanted to help and to work with. And currently I would class myself as a drug dealer. So if you're at a party and people ask you what you do, my common stock answer is that I'm a drug dealer. So in the real world, that means I sell supplements. So hopefully you get the connotations behind that. And in the future, I hope to be a real business owner. So email. Why should you not be doing email? And this is probably a good place to start out, because a lot of people kind of get stuck a little bit with email. They don't know why they should be doing it or why they should not be doing it. There's certain business owners who I believe that shouldn't really touch email marketing, because it's quite an invasive marketing form. It's somebody giving up their email address is quite a big thing, and we have an awful lot of problem with spam, and a lot of people who want to get started into email almost kind of get stalled and a bit stuck with there's a barrier almost. They kind of like, well, I don't want to be seen as a spammer. So I want to try and encourage the people who really shouldn't be doing email marketing. If you're just selling a bunch of random stuff, and there's no real coherent sort of brand behind it, if you're selling random stuff, email marketing is going to be more difficult, because you're going to have to resort to a lot of offers and discounts and coupon codes and all that kind of stuff, which I appreciate is part of some people's business. Certainly in the Amazon world, there's a lot of people who sell a lot of random stuff, but there's no cohesive sort of like structure behind it. Tends not to work so well on an email platform. If you just want to email offers and discounts, I would strongly recommend actually not to do the kind of email marketing that I'm going to be discussing today. Yes, you'll see an awful lot of businesses and brands, and their email marketing strategy is exactly this. It's just emailing offers and discounts all the time. And there is a place for that. But the type of marketing that I want to show you today is just a little bit different from that. If you simply just don't care about your customer or your audience, I really do believe that you shouldn't be sending emails. Actually, you have a duty of care to a certain degree. I believe you should have a duty of care to the people that you're communicating with. You don't want to be wasting their time. So if you don't care about them, then don't email them, because it shows through really, really quickly. And it means that your emails will go into the spam folder, they'll get marked as spam, your reputation diminishes, and the effectiveness of email just doesn't work. And if you're selling things like fidget spinners, I'm not a big fan of these kind of fad kind of products. I would certainly, again, stay away from email marketing. So email marketing, why should you do email? If you've come across any internet marketing over the last 20 odd years, email is apparently dead. And I strongly disagree with that as a statement. Email is actually still my number one rainmaker. So if I need to make sales, I email. It's my primary activity for generating repeat business and for communicating with my audience and my community to encourage people to buy products, ultimately. It is still my number one rainmaker. You can take away my Facebook ads campaigns, you can take away my Google ads campaigns, you can take away Amazon, but never, never, never take away my email list, because it is still my number one way of making money. I still get 25 to 45% open rates. The industry average is below 20%. I'm going to show you the reasons why I'm still able to get 25 to 45% open rates. And my email list is still the one asset that I back up every single week. It is that important to me. I back it up onto Amazon AWS S3, so it's on a cloud-based storage. I have a hard copy on a external hard drive as well. It is that important to me that I back it up all the time. So the reason, probably the main reason for this slide, why we do this, is because it is still the number one reason that my business is still able to operate, even in tough times like we're experiencing right now. So talking of tough times and when things go bad, there's a bunch of different things you can do when business goes bad, or when the world kind of goes to pot like it is at the moment. And say option one, you could run an ad campaign. At the moment, actually on Facebook, my Facebook ad campaigns are running at around about 20% of the cost of what they were a month ago. So the ad costs have gone down dramatically. But the problem with a lot of the ads that I'm running, I'm getting a lot of click-throughs, but I'm not getting that many new sales. I'm not getting many new customers coming to buy from us. You could do some social media. Again, there's an awful lot of positives with doing social media at the moment. We're doing more Facebook Lives on our Facebook page, which is connecting with people really, really well. A lot more people are spending time on social media at the moment. But again, we're not seeing as much in the way of conversions. But for me, my number one thing to do when crap hits fan is I send some emails. And I generally send emails to my existing customers, because that is my number one asset. So when I need to make sales, here's my two-step process. I write an email, and the email is generally a short story. I pivot to a reason why, and then I send them to an offer. And that's an email at its very most basic for me as a email marketer. So I will generally tell a story, and it's either a story about myself, or it's a story about our customers, or it's about a story about our community, or somebody that is relevant to our community. I then have a pivot within that story of a reason why they might be interested in one of our products, and then I send them to an offer page. And then the second thing I do is 24 hours later, I resend to people who didn't open that first email. So I'm going to go into more detail with that a little bit later on, because I think it's an important part of email marketing that a lot of people miss. So I'm going to show you an example, and this example is from back in 2018. And to give you a little bit of background with this, we had a situation where our manufacturers had scuffed and damaged a bunch of our tubs. So as they were sticking the labels on our tubs, the label machine had scratched part of the tub and scratched part of the label, and they just looked really scruffy. They weren't like, you know, broken in any way. It was just they looked really scruffy. So we decided to do an offer. We had about, let's say, as it says here, about 223 tubs that we couldn't really sell because they just looked a bit messy and a bit rough. So we decided to run an offer for a discounted offer to get for people to buy these tubs. And we sent this to our existing customers. I'm going to switch out of this, and I'm going to go take you to the actual email that we wrote. Oops. Yeah, there we go. Shelley, can you still see my screen? Can you read the text? I appreciate the text might be a bit small.
Readable too.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll read it. So the subject for the email was, do you like it rough? Just a little bit sort of, a little bit clickbaity. I'm not really into the whole clickbait thing, but it's a little bit clickbaity, but it got the open rates. And my audience expects these types of subject line. So the email says very quickly, have you noticed how perfect Instagram is? Those perfectly groomed guys and girls posing for the perfect shots. Millennials are now going on holidays just to take Instagram pictures. They don't jump into the sea because it'll mess up their hair and makeup, and that's just the dudes. Me, I took a selfie yesterday whilst on a bike ride. I look rough as fudge, mostly because the climb to the top of the hill was brutal, and then I put a picture of me looking really rough. I am rough around the edges. I'm far from perfectly groomed. I'm scruffy. I'm scuffed and scarred. I have blemishes, milk spots and wrinkles. If I had hair, it'd be greying and thin. I also have a bit of extra body fat, and I don't think I've seen an abdominal muscle in the mirror ever, even during my days as a personal trainer. So why am I bringing this up? We got a call from our warehouse the other day to tell us about our small tubs that are slightly damaged. They've got scuffs and marks from the labeling machine, and they're not perfect. So instead of wasting time and money relabeling them, we've decided to do a promotion for our best customers who don't mind it being rough around the edges. Introducing the Do You Like It Rough offer. So all these tubs are fully sealed and contents are exactly the quality you expect. It's just that the labels on tubs are scuffed. We have 223 tubs available, and we're selling them for £19 each instead of £27.50. Each tub contains 250 grams, so approximately 16 services. You can buy as many as you like while stocks last. Place your order, go here, that's it. So to give you an idea, story. So I'm telling a story about like this whole idea of perfection, and people are chasing perfection, but most people, and me included, are not like that. The pivot is that we've got these scuffed tubs, and they're slightly damaged, and we transitioned to that offer. So that's roughly the sort of structure that I go with a lot of my emails. It's very, very simple. I tell a story, I have some kind of pivot, and then I make an offer. And generally, this is quite I would say, an aggressive offer, more of an aggressive pitch than I would normally do. A lot more often, the pitching that I make is a lot less aggressive. So, but the result was that we sold all 223 tubs in 4 days, which was, for us, was a great exercise. It showed us that our audience was responsive to the offers. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea, say, of the sort of the structure and the style of email marketing that we're talking about. This is not about necessarily the typical kind of like, here's a special offer of the week kind of campaign, which you often see. You'll see people going, oh, it's almost like every week is an offer week. Every week there's some kind of campaign, so to get you to come and buy something. And we don't really do that. We generally do an awful lot of stuff which is full price sales. So we're directing people to web pages and to our product pages on our site that are full price offers. It's not discounted at all. This one, it was a good story. It was a good example of the way that we do the emails. It was just unusual that it was for a special offer. Okay, let's dive back into this again. So I'm into this whole idea of consistent growth in my business, and email helps create that consistent growth. There's guy that I think everybody should follow, a guy called 𝗺𝗀𝘀𝘁. I do have a list of like some of the resources at the end. It's got a slide with all the resources on it. But if you want to check out 𝗺𝗀𝘀𝘁, go to Nerd Marketing. He has some incredible stuff all to do with email marketing and how to use email marketing for e-commerce specifically. And he says that e-commerce success is all about consistent pressure over time. This isn't about having a big promotion that knocks it out of the park this week and then you make no sales next week. It's about email marketing is consistently every week that you're just making a few more sales, getting a few new customers, getting a few more people to come back for repeat purchases, maybe sign up to our subscription program, maybe add more to their basket than they would normally do. And it's bit by bit by bit. That's why the way I look at e-commerce success. It's not about having this amazing offer that it just knocks it out of the park and then is dead the next week. So one of the things that we do, which is a huge part of our email marketing strategy, is what we call our onboarding sequence. Now, it doesn't matter what kind of product or service that you offer. And I appreciate this is different, a little bit different for Amazon sellers, but there are ways of being able to do this and to capture the email addresses of people who've bought your stuff through Amazon to then put them through an onboarding sequence. So one of the very first things that my business partner said to me, my original business partner back in 2012, when we first started Lean Greens, he said to me, he says, you can't sell dog shit in a can twice, which means very simply that we can't sell stuff that's rubbish. If it's rubbish, then people will not come back for a second helping. And it's the same no matter what business you're in. Even if you're selling a one and done style product, they're not going to buy your second product if it's rubbish. They're not going to buy like the supplementary thing, like, if your yoga mat was rubbish, then your yoga block's going to be rubbish too in their eyes. So you've got to make sure that the products you sell are good. The second truth is if someone doesn't finish the first tub, they won't buy a second. And this is something that we realized very, very early on. It doesn't matter how great our product is or how great our marketing is. If they don't finish, or in the case of, say, a yoga mat, if they don't use the yoga mat, they're not going to come back and buy a yoga block. It's a simple fact that you've got to get people to consume, to use, to actually finish the product that you're actually selling them. So one of the things that we do and what we've worked on so hard over the last 8 years is this idea of an onboarding sequence. So the customer onboarding sequence, like we talked about earlier, is all about storytelling. It's about helping people consume our product. So how do I get them started, and engaging with them, building a community feeling to being part of the brand that we have. So to give you an example of one of the emails that we have for our onboarding sequence, this comes after around about 4 or 5 days, I think, of the email sequence. So to give you an idea, a tub of our product lasts around about 33 days. So if they take a scoop a day, it's about 33 days of product that is available to them. We send an email every weekday, so 5 days out of 7, we send an email every day for that first month. So there's 20 emails that are going out as part of our onboarding sequence. And some people say, oh, well, that's way too much, that's way too often. But what we're doing with all of these emails and the way that we write them is we're trying to help them utilize the product. And for us, that's actually part of the product. It's, the physical thing, the iPhone cover or the shaker that you use, or, all that kind of stuff. Is like, you still got to get people to actually use it. So the email campaign that we have, the email sequences that we have, are all about a part of that product as well. It's not just the physical, it's the digital aspect, the email part of it, the consumption part, which is as much about our product as anything else. So this example, is very, very simple. The subject line was why French mums feed their baby blue cheese. And the reason for doing this type of email is to share information about our founders, the founders of our company. So if it's probably really small on this screen, hopefully you can see it. It says, having lived and worked in Luxembourg for 10 years, Sam and I have a lot of European influence in the way that we live. So what we've been able to do is we've been able to tell part of our story as part of an overall story of why blue cheese, why French mums feed their babies blue cheese. We want to engage in a fun way with our customers about the taste of our product, because if you've never tried a greens product, it looks like pond water and it's not the most attractive looking thing in the world. If you say that to people, oh, it's a vegetable based drink, they go, and if they don't like vegetables, they're like, oh, that's going to taste minging. And to a certain degree, there is an element of truth in the greens world that's true. So what we want to do is we want to head on, take that objection head on and engage with them in a fun way about it. So we talk about like how pediatricians recommend feeding their baby a morsel of moldy blue cheese each day. And there's actually no scientific basis behind it. It's just about getting the baby used to the taste. So, and that's the way that we've told the story. The whole idea of this email is not to get them to buy another tub today. It's about getting them to actually drink our product, to actually consume it, to get used to it. It gives us a chance to give them tips on how to utilize the product and how to develop habits, all really super, super important parts of this. So to give you an idea of the kind of email marketing that we do, this is the full sequence. And to give you the, I can't really give you all of my emails, but the best way of doing this, which I know that somebody like, I know that Ash has bought our products, for example, he's experienced the full customer sequence. So you can see the emails here. Thanks and fist bumps is just basically a welcome email, important information about your order. I bet this wasn't your first drink. So it talks about like, my story of my first drink was a pint of Guinness rather than a shandy. There's the blue cheese one. Is our broccoli soaked in unicorn tears? This whole idea of what makes our product special. And it's not because it's soaked in unicorn tears. More stories about like, being in the gym, wacko faith healers. Why do people do this to get healthy? It's a video of Peter Griffin from Family Guy eating a rice cake, and it points them to the video on YouTube. So the idea is we're getting the email reader used to clicking a link to go and view something that's fun and interesting and maybe worthwhile for them to do so. So we have a bit of fun with this. How zombies could benefit from the ingredients. So just trying to emphasize some of the benefits in a fun way. So there's lots and lots of different ways that we utilize that we're trying to build engagement for storytelling and encourage consumption. And that's what all of our customer onboarding sequence is all about. So before I dive into the next part of this, is there any particular questions that anybody's got that I can tackle right at the moment that's to do with that first part?
Can I just ask an obvious question that's coming to me? We'll look at the question over in the screen in a minute. But so what kind of sequence do you put people through before they've bought? This is just for your customers, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Again, it depends on where they come from. So if they've landed on one of our landing pages, we have particular offers for a new customer bundle, for example, which contains a tub of greens, a shaker, and one of our other products, for example. And what we try to do there is we're trying to push people over the off the fence a little bit and to actually get them to actually buy. So we might have a discount offer or a free shipping offer or something like that. So the initial emails that go out to prospects, people who haven't bought our product at the moment, is just trying to push them over the edge. And then we then, once they've gone through a certain sequence of here's the offer that we showed you earlier kind of thing, and they haven't bought, we'll then start feeding them into our daily broadcast type emails where they get an idea of who we are as a company and the fun kind of emails that we write to our audience in general, and expose them to the normal day-to-day kind of offers that we would have. So it's we have a particular flow that walks them through getting the offer that they signed up for, but then after that we just move them into our normal broadcast emails.
Everyone else is thinking this. I haven't looked at the questions, but there's certainly one that's top of my mind. Where on earth do you get the frickin' ideas for this?
See, the thing is like I've spent 8 years running Lean Greens, and for 8 years I've been selling essentially the same products, the one main product. We only have 6 SKUs in our business. We're about to have a 7th actually at the end of the month. But for the past 8 years, I kind of joke that I've been writing about green stuff, green powder for like the last 8 years. The reality is actually I'm not. And because one of the challenges with certainly the type of product that we have is there's an awful lot of stuff that we can't say. Certainly within the UK and the EU, there's a lot of regulation around health claims. And there's largely very, very little we can actually say about the benefits of the product, as it were. So we have to be a little bit more kind of creative with it. So what we write about is we write about our experiences as users and as human beings in our community. We talk about our customers' stories rather than the testimonials, the support questions we get, and the way that we interact with people. So somebody said to me a while ago, and they were like, it was a storytelling, they claim themselves as a storytelling expert. And it's like, people worry that they're going, oh, well, I don't have any stories to tell. And it's like, okay, so if you were meeting some friends in a pub in the evening, which we can't do at the moment, or if you went out to dinner with people, which unfortunately you can't do at the moment.
We did it over Zoom with people.
Yeah, you can Zoom with people. I actually did a virtual coffee morning with some friends through Skype over the weekend, which was a lot of fun. And what did we do? We told stories. And to be honest with you, everything about my life is stories. Everything, the communication that we do on a day-to-day basis with anybody is stories. It's not facts. It's not figures. It's kind of like, oh, I discovered such and such thing, or remember when we went to the Dolomites and we rode down that mountain and there was that awesome cafe in the middle of nowhere, and it was the best coffee ever, and they had amazing pastry and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, those are the kind of stories that I tell within my email marketing. The interesting part is how you transition from the story to your product. And that's the inventive part. That's the creative part you've got to come up with. I can challenge pretty much anybody. You can write stories about anything, absolutely anything to do with your life, your customer's life, stuff that's going on in the media, the news at the moment. Obviously, there's an awful lot going on. There's fairly dominated in the world of media at the moment with this whole lovely virus that, is locking us all away. And it's, people have, Shelley actually asked just before we started this call about like what kind of things that you're writing emails about right now and being sensitive to the current situation. So I'll give you an example of an email that I wrote last, not this Monday just gone, the Monday before. And it was quite a personal email from me, a really, really sort of, and it wasn't designed to be emotional on purpose. It was just to express how I was feeling and also trying to reflect what our customers were feeling at that time. And certainly, at that time, I was having a little bit of anxiety and a little bit of concern and kind of like worry about the current situation that we were going through. And it was almost, and I kind of came to a realization that it was that we were all going through the grief response. So there's 5 stages of grief. And if you've studied any of this stuff to do with like grief counseling or anything like that, there are 5 stages which we go through to get to acceptance after an event. So whether it's been a death in the family or a particular crisis, business going to pot or whatever, we all go through this grief cycle, this grief process. And so the email was just all about acceptance and explaining that I go through all this stuff. I'm going through the 5 stages of grief. I'm fairly convinced our customers are going through that as well. And it's like, how the point behind the email was like, how can we help you get to acceptance quicker? And the responses we got from it were incredible. It's sending the hairs on the back of my neck up, just thinking about some of the amazing responses we got from our customers and our audience. Because I did a very little ask at the end of the email. I didn't try and sell anything. I wasn't trying to sell anything. All I was trying to do is like saying, if you've got a tool or a strategy or something that you want to share, send it to us and we'll then feed it back to our audience as a whole. We got inundated with responses from our audience about how they're dealing with acceptance or how they're getting to acceptance, how they're getting through the anxiety phase. So, there are situations where you can still write, and you can still write the story, the personal story about yourself. You can tell the story of your customer. You can tell the story about, your product. You can tell the story about like somebody, a common villain or a common enemy, if you like, or a common friend, a common hero that we all have. So there's lots of different ways of writing those emails. Does that help, Shelley?
Definitely. And just to clarify, you write all these emails yourself. You're not using copywriters or anything like that.
In the past, I have used specific email writers for this. I've got a very, very good friend of mine who I did some business coaching with many, many years ago. And he then went away and created his own marketing agency. He deals with an awful lot of the bodybuilders, literally and figuratively the biggest guys in the bodybuilding world. So he writes an awful lot of the email campaigns for them. But so I used to hire him to write my emails. But what I found was that because I've been, you build up a bit of a voice and a bit of a relationship with your audience, with the individual subscribers on your list, and the customers that you have. And the personal stories actually seem to work much, much better than it just being a boring email about, how to reduce the amount of cortisol your body produces, for example, which is boring as hell. But an email copywriter could write that, and it might be interesting to a certain segment of your audience, but it really doesn't grow that relationship. So yeah, I write the majority of the emails myself. At the moment, and here's the thing, I write probably 2 or 3 emails a week to our audience. So it takes me about half an hour to write an email generally. When you first start doing this, it can take a little bit longer. When I very first started doing email marketing seriously 7-8 years ago, it was taking me over an hour and a half to write an email. But you get into the flow, you come up with ideas very, very quickly. Once you get it, it's kind of like a muscle. It's like the more you train it, the stronger it gets, the easier it gets. So, certainly writing the emails yourself is good practice. And they say the best copywriters out there in the world will be able to reflect and understand your voice. And that's what my friend Adam, who does the bodybuilding guys' emails, he is really, really good at getting the voice of the person that he's writing for. So there are some great copywriters out there, but I would strongly recommend doing it yourself as well.
Christian, are you still with us? Yes, you are. Do you want to run through some of the other questions that have popped up quickly?
The questions there so far are not relevant particularly to what you're talking about at the moment, Tim, so we can go through them at the end, I think. So
sure.
Keep going. We'll cover them later.
I'm just obviously conscious of time and stuff like that, just to make sure I don't go on and on and on and on and on. So writing broadcast emails the easy way. So this kind of answers some of the questions that Shelley's just been asking. How can you write an email? And one of the best ways I've found of, if you're stuck for something to write, I always start at the end. So what is the desired action? I then think about what's the transition, what will introduce people to that desired action from a story, and what's the story. So with short, entertaining anecdotes that can be transitioned into the action. So, you know, I try and start at the end. What's the outcome? Okay, do I want to send them to my Lean Greens product page, or do I want to send them to the fish oils product page, or to a particular bundle or a subscription offer? So I think about that first and going, okay, so what stories can I, you know, talk about, and then what's the transition between the two? So generally I start at the end. So to give you an idea, and one of the last things I do is I write the headline or the subject line last, because you tend to kind of like back yourself into a corner. If you think of a great headline or a great subject line, you very quickly kind of like start writing. If you start from a blank screen and start with absolutely nothing, you end up just writing a whole load of random stuff, which does have its benefits, but at the same time, it tends to ramble a little bit. So here's an example which I wrote about 2 weeks ago or something like that, and it's called Accidentally Vegan. The end goal was to get them to go to the Lean Greens product page. The transition is to basically say, do you know what else is accidentally vegan? One of the things that we try to do is we don't necessarily attract vegans to our business. It's just so happens that our product is vegan by accident. It wasn't necessarily by design. So, you know, this was a great way of introducing that fact that, yes, it is vegan, but we didn't set out to make it vegan. And then the story is, you can tell the story, self-isolation is getting to us when we discover a list of accidentally vegan products, i.e. bourbon biscuits, Oreos, and pink wafers. So this plays very much into understanding my audience really, really well. Our audience aren't necessarily the most fit and healthy and active people in the world. They are people who want to make changes to their life and to their nutrition and their diet, but are not willing to give up eating biscuits and having a beer or a glass of Prosecco or gin and tonic or something like that. Or, you know, they don't want to give up eating steak, which is what you'll see from many other people in this world. So we portray a very, very different image. So this whole idea of discovering that bourbon biscuits and pink wafers are vegan is actually just a bit of fun. It's a fun story to tell. So the subject is accidentally vegan. The sub-headline, which I'll talk about a little bit later, is bourbon biscuits are now banned from our office. So the email was very, very simple. Discussion at the office this week is inevitable about stuff we have during self-isolation. Yes, folk are panic buying pasta and Andrex, but there's some other unusual stuff folk are starting to hoard. I thought bourbon biscuits would be a great idea, great low-cost snack to hoard. But then someone in the office spoiled it for me. Hey, Tim, you know bourbon biscuits are vegan. What the actual? So a bit of Googling and I discovered a list of accidentally vegan biscuits. And then it goes, lists all those vegan biscuits with Crawford's pink wafers at the end. To be fair, I don't think Crawford's pink wafers qualify as animal, vegetable, or mineral. Do you know what else is accidentally vegan? Lean Greens. We never set out to make it vegan. It's just a happy accident. And then it introduces our subscription offer for Lean Greens. So we have each month or every 4 weeks or 6 weeks or something, you get billed, we send out automatically a tub of Lean Greens. So this is a way to get people to join our subscription offer. So very, very short email. You can see there's a lot of aspects to this, which are really quite key. So there's a lot of white space, a lot of use of the return key, lists, a bit of fun. It's a very simple story about what we were discussing in the office. It's related to the current zeitgeist, which is self-isolation, all that kind of stuff. So what were the results of that? So to give you an idea, as I said earlier, we send the email first. So you can see the second line is the first email that went out. We got over 33% of our audience opening it, and we got 6 sales from it. Now, I'll come on to the sales in a second, if you're thinking it's quite low. Accidentally vegan, resend. So we sent the same email again about 24 hours later to people who didn't open the first time. So we got another 17.7%. So in essence, there's around about 50% of our audience opened the email, which, you know, most people, I say, are struggling to get over 20% open rates. And that created another couple of sales, 2 sales at £200. So 4 out of the 8 purchases were for new subscriptions. And for our subscription offer, generally the average cart value is around about £40 to £44, something like that, which at the time doesn't seem very much. But when you consider that each subscriber that we get, each person who joins our subscription offer is worth on average £1,200 over the lifetime of their subscription. So coming back to what I was saying earlier about that consistent pressure over time, it's like if every day that I'm adding 4 new subscribers to our subscription offer, and each of those people is worth £1,200, so conservatively around about £4,500 to £5,000 on average that we're earning from our email marketing, from only 8 people buying. I really don't care that it was only 8 people buying. What's important is we've gained a subscriber that is worth £1,200 on average to us. So, it's one of the reasons why I keep on pressing about this whole consistent pressure over time. If we can consistently get more and more people to join our subscription program, the more valuable my business is long term. Because when it comes to times like now where, we are having a bit of a crunch where people aren't buying as much, we're now falling back on those subscribers, the people that have bought from us continually for the last 3, 4, 5, and 6 years plus. And that's the real power of the whole email marketing. It's not about today. It's about what happens next month, next quarter, next year, in 3 years down the line. That's what email marketing is all about. And a lot of people kind of like get worried, well, I want to see results now all the time. They want to get results now. And if you want a long-term, sustainable, consistently growing business, think about tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, because that will give you a much, much more consistent business and a more sustainable business long term. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like 10 real quick fire email writing and sending tips, and then I'll get on to the whole how to collect emails part of this. So I was trying to think of 10 writing and sending tips that would help some of our more experienced marketers and also some of our new ones as well. So as I've already said, always resend to unopened approximately 24 hours after the original send. Most email service providers will give you the ability to segment your audience based upon whether they've opened an email or not opened an email, and that allows you to do that. Use the second headline technique. The second headline technique is what appears under the main headline on the when somebody views your email on Gmail or on their phone. I will show you, I've got a screenshot a little bit later which shows you the second headline. As I've said before, use new paragraphs of white space liberally. So really space out your email, make it super easy to read. There's I can't remember the author's name. It's gone completely out of my head. There's a particular author that writes in really, really short sentences, no more than about 10, 12 words per sentence. There's lots of white space. And when you read that particular author, you find yourself reading faster and faster and faster. You consume the information easier because you're not bogged down in this big blocks of text. So make sure that you use paragraphs and white space liberally. I soft pitch on pretty much every email. So as long as you're entertaining and informing people, you can soft pitch on every single email. It won't annoy people as much as you think it will. One thing that you don't want to be is boring. Like I said earlier, don't write about how to lower your cortisol levels, because it will send people to sleep unless you can think of a story around it that makes it less boring. You can use emoticons in your headlines, but again, use them sparingly. Don't go over the top because they look a bit garish. One of the things I would test is the from field. So when an email appears in somebody's inbox, the from field, who that email is from, you can change. So most email service providers, whether you're using Klaviyo or ConvertKit or ActiveCampaign or Drip or any of these other systems, you can change what appears in the from field. So at the moment, most of my emails come from tim@, lean greens. In the past, I've tested Tim Goodwin. Sometimes I've tested just lean greens, or Tim Goodwin - lean greens, that kind of stuff. But I've tested different from fields, and I've kind of stumbled upon one which seems to be quite effective. People are more happy with that we're finding that we're getting better open rates with. So most email platforms allow you to split test stuff. So you can do some of those, you can test things like the from field. This is a real super ninja technique for helping improve deliverability of your emails. Try and get people to reply to your emails. If you can get somebody to reply to one of your broadcast emails, it shows the services like Gmail and Hotmail and all that kind of stuff that your stuff is not spam and it's not likely to be promotions, because Gmail wants to put your email into their promotions tab and it never gets seen. So I always try to get people to respond, to reply, to send us a message back to say, yes, I got your email. Yes, I got your your lead magnet, your, whether it's a checklist or a white paper or a free report or whatever it is that you're offering. I always try and get people to reply to my emails. We use customer testimonials loads and support questions as stories and subjects for your emails. Some of the best content that you will create, some of the best emails you'll create with the biggest open rates will be a question from Joan. And within the email, it's basically, oh, we got this email through our support system the other day from Joan. She was asking about XYZ. And then we answer that support question. So, and they're great content, because people, if one of your customers is asking that question, generally that's a question that a lot of people are asking themselves about your product. So they're great ways, they're great content for emails. And finally, list hygiene is super, super vital. And list hygiene is very simply getting rid of people that shouldn't be on your list. So people who don't open your emails, people that are, haven't bought and haven't opened an email in 6 months, get them off your list, because they're never going to buy, they're never going to open your stuff. So you might as well just get rid of them off your list. And it helps with open rates considerably, and deliverability, it helps with that massively if you've got good list hygiene. So just to give you an example of, I wanted to show you a screenshot of what an email looks like. So this is an email that we sent a couple of weeks ago. You can see the from address, Tim at Lean Greens. You can see how different they are to some of the others emails that go into their inbox. It looks very, very different. So that's the main subject line. And this is the second headline, which some email service providers allow you to fill out. Certainly the decent ones like Klaviyo and Drip allow you to edit this second headline so that you can specify exactly what appears. So the reason we hate veg is the second headline. Otherwise, what most email services will do is they will take the first sort of 2 lines of the content from your email as being the second headline, which generally just doesn't work and doesn't look right. So definitely look at the second headline. So before I jump into the email list building, have I completely baffled people so far? Is there any particular questions about any of that stuff that people want to ask?
The question in the chat is a nice segue to the next section, which is, do you use MailChimp or something else? So that will be answered in a moment.
Yeah.
And there's a question about any particular days or times you found to work best for email open rates for sequences and broadcasts.
No, I generally pick one and stick with it. So generally, I will line up most emails, certainly the onboarding sequence that we have. It's 7 o'clock in the morning on a weekday. It means that the email is, if they're using a work email address, it's in their inbox as being one of the latest emails that they will receive. So rather than it being stuff that's, it's buried in stuff that's been sent overnight. And generally, if people wake up or they're dealing with the kids or dropping the kids at school or whatever, they're on the phone, they might check their email, 7 o'clock in the morning. It's a time when they're kind of like, spinning plates a little bit, and they've got like that spare 30 seconds to read your email. Most of my emails are never more than like, a minute or two read, and people can get an idea very, very quickly. So it's 7 o'clock in the morning for me, but really I used to track a lot more, like the days and the times. I used to send on the Sunday afternoon, because that seemed to work quite well to get people. Again, people are kind of preparing themselves for the next week, and they've had a bit of a crappy weekend, and they feel they need a bit of a pick me up, and they're going, oh yeah, I really need to eat better. So I've had a few too many drinks, or I've eaten badly this weekend. I'm going to order some nice product to help move me forward to a more healthy, nutritious life. But generally, I just do weekdays now, 7 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, we've got a few questions about list hygiene and some examples from Ash. But I'm just going to see if I can work some magic. I'm trying to invite him on stage so we can ask the questions in person. Let's see if that works.
Yeah.
Just give it a second.
So the list hygiene thing is a little bit more of an advanced topic. Certainly, but it's certainly something worthwhile looking at.
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Ash, good to speak to you, buddy.
Yeah.
Welcome, people.
So thanks, great content as always. As you mentioned, I've been following you guys on your list anyway for quite a while. So my first question was just around, what do you prefer in terms of text-based emails versus graphics-based emails specifically for e-com stores? Because I've seen a lot of lists that I've signed up to do really heavy graphic stuff on their emails, and like showing their products, lifestyles, a lot of imagery. So I'm just wanting to get your opinion on what do you think is the best approach, text or graphic, or I know yours is a bit more of a combination. So yeah, just
it's as you're right, it is a bit of a combination that we use of text and graphics. I tend to go more text because it's like me sending an email to a friend. So a lot of my email marketing is much more about, hey John, hey Sarah, hey Bill, whatever, and I'm telling a story to a friend in a pub or in a cafe or in a restaurant. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot more personal. It's a personal email rather than an out and out branded, beautifully sort of curated email. Mm-hmm. And I have tried both. I've tried those beautifully curated kind of, flash looking things, and I tend not to get the same response that I did with text. So I tend to stick with text, but we do put in some media. Mm-hmm. So we put in like a screenshot. Say, for example, if somebody's asked a question on our Facebook page, for example, I do a screenshot of it and I'll add that in as an image onto the email.
And do you think a factor of having too much imagery would mean that you get caught in spam and stuff like that as well?
Potentially, if the image is not being compressed properly, you tend to find that the open rates absolutely plummet. When you get low open rates or lots of bounces, you know that you've probably fallen foul of a spam filter or something like that. So imagery is, if you are going to use images in your emails, use a tool like ShortPixel or SmashIt to reduce the file size, the image size, to less than 100 kilobytes. And it means that it's less likely to get sort of jammed up in a spam filter.
Okay, perfect. My other question was just examples of brands that you follow that you think have got good email sequences. Can you give some examples?
Mine, of course. I've actually been, I take inspiration from outside of the supplement world and generally out of like the products world. I follow quite a lot of email marketers, internet marketers, info product marketers, that kind of thing. So if you've, one of my best recommendations is Andre Chaperon. If you join his list, so if you go to, I think even if you go to andrechaperon.com, he writes some amazing emails, really just completely like, bizarre, like left field sort of conversations, but fascinating. Another person is Donald Miller. Donald Miller from StoryBrand. If you've not read the StoryBrand book, it's a strong recommendation to everybody who's listening to this. It's a fantastic book to read, and if you follow him if you get his emails as well, his daily emails are very good. They're a lot more media focused, but again he's answering a question or telling a story or that kind of thing. So he's just using a slightly different medium for it. So if you're better on video than you are on actual text stuff, then you can still write an email, but you forward somebody to the video to watch the video instead of you talking about the particular subject. So yeah, certainly well worth looking at. Just seeing one of the other questions is, what was the name of the email compression? It's actually the image compression that I was talking about. So it's images that you include on your email. Make sure you compress those. So the tool that we use is either 𝗍𝐿 or what did I say the other one was? ShortPixel. So if you go to shortpixel.com, it'll cost you about $10 for about a bazillion images that you can get compressed. So yeah, $10 will last you for a very long time. I think I signed up about a year ago, and I've still not even got close to using up the first $10 that I spent. 𝗍𝐿, yeah, 𝗍𝐿 is the other one, yeah.
I'm not sure if 𝗍𝐿 still works. I think it's
does it not? Okay,
changed. I think there's an alternative version now, but I can't remember the name. Yeah. Something like 𝗍𝐿 or something.
I use ShortPixel all the time because I use it for things like,
yeah,
it's a very simple system to use, and you can use it on your WordPress sites as well. So well worth using. Cool. I appreciate time is like, we've already got to 3 o'clock. I've got a couple of more slides which talk about the actual list building part of it. I can quickly bash through those, and then we'll answer questions as quickly as possible at the end. Obviously, I don't want to take up too many people's time. Obviously, there is going to be a recording of this as well, but this is going to be super quick to go through anyway, if you want to carry on, yeah?
All good, keep going.
Correct. So hopefully you can see my screen again. Can you see it full screen?
Yeah, just one other thing to add to this. If you guys enjoyed this webinar, and I hope the indications are that you have, do know that when we finally get free, if ever, we will actually have Tim come and do both a mastermind session as well as a face-to-face evening session for everyone as well. So hopefully that's good news, because you could talk about so many other things associated with your online business.
Yeah, unfortunately, I could talk the hind legs off a donkey when it comes to marketing. I am probably the most boring person in my village for normal day-to-day stuff. But when it comes to marketing, I will talk forever. So yeah, you'd have to drag me kicking and screaming from not presenting for you guys. So email list building, some real basic stuff. There's 2 things that you really need to be able to build a list. One, you need a method, a form for people to put their email address into, to be able to give you their email address, and you need a tool that will keep that email address and give you the ability to email them. So there's I've given you some examples of some of the email service providers down the right hand side. So 𝗱𝐿𝐬𝑎 is my weapon of choice. I've used Aweber, I've used ActiveCampaign, I've used Drip, I've used ConvertKit. I very briefly used MailChimp. I've used Infusionsoft, or whatever it's called these days. I've used them all, and by far the best 2 which I've come across are Drip and 𝗱𝐿𝐬𝑎. They are superb tools. They give you the ability to segment your audiences based upon purchases. One of the great things with 𝗱𝐿𝐬𝑎 is that it integrates super tightly with Shopify. So if you're a Shopify person, you can. It's a great tool for doing that. On the left-hand side is a form. It's just an example of one of the forms that we have running on our website. There's a couple of different tools out there. You've probably all heard of things like ClickFunnels and Lead Pages and all those kind of things. I've had those tools. The tool I use right now is called ConvertBox, and it's a one-time fee. You pay $297, and it integrates with your site, whether you're on WordPress or Shopify or whatever you might be on. It'll integrate. It's just a piece of code that goes into there. And I say you pay a one-time fee, and it gives you so much functionality. So I'm going to show you some of that functionality in a moment. So as I've said before, your customer email list is your most important asset. So if you're Amazon only, this is slightly more difficult because you've got to be able to try and get the email address from your Amazon buyers. And Amazon's kind of scuppered email collection years ago, and probably for good reason, because they didn't want people stealing their customers. As we briefly spoke about in last week's webinar, you've got to get a bit creative with package inserts. If you're doing fulfilled by merchant, you can do as much really as you really want with package inserts. My recommendation with package inserts is give them a reason to opt in. You've got to give them a reason other than just, oh, here's a discount for your next order or something like that. Make it a value add. So, something like, want to know the 10 best ways to consume lean greens. Go to this page and we'll send you our top 10 recipes and different ways of using lean greens as an example. You can also collect the emails before purchase. So if you're doing any Facebook ads, you can run campaigns to give away coupons, and then you send them to a web page that you own, that you can have an opt-in form on there, so you can give them a coupon code, and that way you've actually collected the email address before they've gone and purchased. My recommendation, if you are an Amazon-only merchant, is to use ConvertKit. ConvertKit sounds like ConvertBox. It's a different company. ConvertKit is a email service provider like Klaviyo or Drip or Aweber or any of these kind of things. But I'd recommend ConvertKit or Drip to manage your lists and your email sending. It's cheaper than Klaviyo. Klaviyo tends to get a little bit pricey, but it's got more functionality in Klaviyo. So, but yeah, if you're just Amazon only, then use ConvertKit or Drip. Drip is my strongest recommendation on that. ConvertKit is the kind of like the easier way to get started if you've not been doing any email marketing before. So for non-Amazon merchants, aka Shopify, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, blah, 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 all those kind of things, it's much easier to get the email address for your customers, because when they buy from you, generally they give you their email address. So Klaviyo is my strongest recommendation here. I've been a Klaviyo customer for around about 4.5, 5 years now. I switched from Infusionsoft to Klaviyo because Infusionsoft required a full-time data engineer to manage the information that was on there. Klaviyo, literally within 5 minutes of switching across, it had imported all the data in from Shopify, and I can segment based upon everything from which product they bought, or more importantly, what product they haven't bought. You can segment based upon when was the last time that they bought. So if they bought, say, we've just recently done a campaign where we've gone, okay, any customer that hasn't bought from us for 3 months, but has bought at least 3 times and at least once in the last 12 months. So you can get super, super granular with the segmentation that you can do. So we do an awful lot of things like they bought lean greens, but they haven't bought our whey protein product, for example. And it gives us a chance to send a specific email to people that haven't bought our whey protein to tell them more about the whey protein. And that's really super powerful. Let's say granular segmentation is possible. You can do conditional email sequences, which means, once they click to link, if they've not clicked a link, we send them one email. If they have clicked a link, then we send them a different email. So you can do a whole bunch of conditional sequences based upon the actions of the customer. And it's got some really powerful list management functions and integrations. So it integrates super, super tightly with Shopify, as I mentioned, but it also integrates with a whole bunch of other tools that we use. So, for example, our subscription software, Recharge, we can set up emails specifically for that. So really, it's a really, really powerful tool. And so this is just an example of some of the flows that we have, the segmentation and the the conditional aspects. So if they are are they an active subscriber? Yes. Are they not an active subscriber? Yes. So they're not an active subscriber, send them the offer for the free products. If they are an active subscriber, we just tag them as such, and then we wait 3 days and blah, 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 blah. So we've got different ways of sending email flows based upon what kind of customer that they are. So prospects is a very different thing from customers. And this is something I wanted to really make a clear distinction between. When people start building an email list, they think that all email subscribers are all the same. They're not. Your customers have already bought from you. They already paid you money. They have a very different mindset and attitude and belief system around your business and your brand. And they're much, much more likely to buy from you than a prospect who's never handed over any cash to you and is just kind of looking and interested in your business or in your products. My suggestion here is like big lists do not necessarily equal big sales. So make sure you only get the right people onto your list. So we only really ask for emails of people that are kind of sat on the fence. So people who've spent, say, for example, 90 seconds on a landing page, and they kind of like going, not sure whether to buy or not. And we then show a pop-up box saying, do you want an offer for this particular product that you're looking at? So that means we're somebody who lands on the page and they're only on the page for 10 seconds, and then we throw up a pop-up box, which then gives them an offer, is a less qualified prospect than somebody who spent 90 seconds on the page, and then we show them the pop-up with an offer. So this is what I'm talking about. We're getting only the right people on your list. I'm not all about trying to get as many people as possible. What I want is people who are most likely to buy. With that said, I do try and avoid things like, I've seen questions like this in the ScaleForEtail Facebook group, which I believe if you're not a member of the ScaleForEtail group, Shelley will put a link in the chat box probably, or underneath this video somewhere. But people in the group have been asking about contests and giveaways and stuff like that. I try to avoid those. I've done these types of things before to get people onto an email list. Give you an example. We gave away an Apple iWatch about 3 years ago, and we ran the contest through one of these viral systems. So basically, when somebody invited their friends to join the contest as well, they got extra entries into the contest, for example. And what happens is I got about 3,500 email subscribers in a matter of about a week. And I was thinking, yay, 3,500 people onto my list. Problem is that 90% of them didn't actually open a single email from me ever. So you had to get rid of them. And I think we worked out that it was like 0.5% of the list actually went forward to buy something. Now, you would say that, okay, that can financially work out in the long term, but you've got to do an awful lot of list management and list cleansing. So try to stay away from contests and like iPad giveaways, because you'll get a whole lot of junk people onto your list that you are never going to buy your product anyway. So there are ways of doing it that make sure that, you can run contests that do work, but just try and stay away from the iPads giveaways. Blog posts are a great place to add an opt-in. If you've got a blog, a WordPress blog, a website, that's a great place to add an opt-in. So if people have come and visited your blog, read one of your articles, we find that's a great place to put an opt-in box. And landing pages that we have, so specific landing pages for particular offers. Say, for example, if we're running a Facebook ad campaign to drive somebody to an offer page, as I said, we've got a timed pop-up or an exit pop based upon how long they've been on there. So if they've been on there for 90 seconds, we throw up a pop-up. Or if they've scrolled through, say, 2/3 of the page through the landing page, we throw out the pop-up. And we use ConvertBox as the tool that allows us to collect those email addresses. So that's the pop-up box. So to show you what that looks like on a blog, it shows once they've spent 90 seconds, or I think it's when they've scrolled 2/3 of the way through the page, they get shown this bar at the bottom of their screen, pointing somebody at our new customer pack. So that this is a ConvertBox tool. So just a simple plugin for WordPress, and it's a simple bit of code for your Shopify store. For our landing pages, so this is when somebody spent, I think, 90 seconds. I think we've got it set out at the moment. Spend 90 seconds on a particular landing page, it'll throw up this pop-up box on a desktop, or it'll throw up this one on a mobile device. So it works on mobile and on desktop. So that gives you an idea of what ConvertBox does. So some real simple basics, some quick fire stuff for list building. Know who you want on your list. And this is really important, that you understand who your audience is, who's most likely to buy your product. For us, it's people who don't like vegetables. So it makes the messaging really, really easy for the opt-in, also makes the messaging and the stories and the language we use in the emails much, much easier to write. Equally so, you also want to know who you don't want on your list. Well, I put in here vegans, PTs, and health fanatics. I have nothing against vegans or PTs or health fanatics. I used to be a PT and I used to be a bit of a health fanatic. Never been a vegan, but we find that they tend not to be great customers for us. They tend to be people that have their own opinions already about certain things, and they don't sit well with our approach to health and nutrition. So, I say it's nothing against those guys, they just don't fit. So we try and actively put off those types of people from being on our list. What is the common outcome of your list members? This is, again, it is about knowing your audience. What your customers and your list members, what do they want? What's the ultimate thing that they're trying to achieve? And for us, it's about they want to feel like they're doing something good to their body. And this can be, this can present itself in all manner of things like, well, I'm getting nutrients in, but I don't eat vegetables, but I'm still getting my nutrients in. Or I want to sneak vegetables into my kids' diet, or, these kind of things. That's the common outcome of our list. What common heroes do you align with? So what common heroes do your audience align with? We celebrate Joe Wicks, which obviously, if you've been in the UK in the last couple of weeks, Joe Wicks has been the darling of the media with his regular daily workouts for kids. His PE sessions on YouTube, and we nickname him our floppy-haired hero, and we use that phrase floppy-haired hero all the time in our emails. And it means that when we start talking about the floppy-haired hero, our audience know exactly who we're talking about. So we try and present these common heroes. It gives us more stories to talk to our customers about. And what common enemies do you have? Again, personal trainers, nutritionists, perfect people who've got the perfect diet. Everybody's got a friend who's got seemingly the perfect lifestyle and the perfect diet. These are our common enemies. So we talk about regularly within our email marketing, trying to get people onto our list. We use personal trainers as the enemy. We don't pick out anybody in particular. We don't name somebody directly. We go something like, oh, those personal trainers who do nothing but just post videos of their breakfast on Instagram, and we take the piss out of them, basically. But we don't take a piss out of one person in particular. I just want to make that clear. So the perfect lead magnet, what's going to encourage people to get onto your list? What's the first thing that your prospect needs or wants to solve their problem? So you've got to understand what your ideal customer, what are they trying to achieve? What's the first thing that they need to solve their problem? I find that checklists are a great lead magnet. So it's like, the 5 things you need in your cupboard, or the 5 things you need in your fridge to make the perfect smoothie. Ingredients, tools. What's the best Vitamix or the NutriBullet kind of thing. Well, that's one of our most opened blog posts. And we have a whole report that's based upon ingredients and tools and recipes to do with juices and smoothies. We have, DIY guides are really great as well. So how can somebody achieve the same result, but by doing it themselves? And one of the great things with this is it doesn't necessarily detract people from buying your product. It just shows them how difficult it is to try and do it themselves. And then they'll go and buy your product anyway. So Smoothies and Juices recipe book, and we seed the idea of adding lean greens to upgrade your juices and smoothies. And we find that videos are a great way of delivering lead magnets. They're easy to create. So you could just do a video, which is like, you know, my favorite recipe, for example, our favorite morning detox juice. And like we show them how to make it. And we have that, we basically say, opt into our list to get access to our favorite morning detox juice. And it just means that we get the right people on the list. And then we show them our product, they get exposed to us, and they're more likely to buy. So that's email marketing 101 in a nutshell, which has taken about an hour and 15 minutes. Apologies for taking a little bit longer than I expected with that. I'm sure people have got questions. Feel free to hit me up in the group and put the questions in the box here as well. I can answer a bunch of questions now. I won't go through this. This is just a slide of some of the people that I talked about, some of the tools I've mentioned. Some are affiliate links. I might earn about 5p from you from recommending any of those various tools. But if you're wanting to discover more about email marketing and some of my tutors, the people that I've got a huge amount from, 𝗀𝘂𝘁𝘂𝗿𝗃, Andre Chaperon, and Ben Settle, probably the three of the best email marketers on the planet. Andre Chaperon definitely is well worth looking at. He has a product called Autoresponder Madness, which kind of kicked this whole thing off about 8-9 years ago for me. So definitely well worth checking out Andre. Ben is an acquired taste, let's put it that way, but he's fascinating. And 𝗀𝘂𝘁𝘂𝘁 has a fantastic podcast at Nerd Marketing and talks e-commerce and big time e-commerce with Shopify. So definitely worth watching. Cool. That's me, Shelley. Christian, go for it. What questions we got?
Awesome. I'm going to do a round of applause.
Oh, thank you.
I think everybody is doing right now. And it's popular to give a round of applause on a...
yeah, please save it for those lovely souls that are helping us in this current situation.
A really great session, and I'm sure everybody else will agree. And actually, can we just hire you to do our... write all my emails? I think that's how I'm feeling at the end of this.
That's not necessarily the intention. I'm way too busy to do that sort of stuff. I appreciate what you're saying. It feels like for a lot of people, email marketing feels like this big thing that they should do, but they kind of get put off by it because it feels like such a big thing. The best time to start email marketing and email writing is yesterday. The next best time is now. And it's like, for me, it's helped my business at this current time to be able to have a community of people that are wanting to continually be part of my community. And that's been quite satisfying. But I'd certainly, the thing is, you don't need a massive list. You can start with literally 10 people on your list and like start emailing them like every couple of days or so and start growing it from there. Don't worry about thinking, people are always amazed by the size of my email list. It's actually really small compared to the size of the business that we have, mostly because I purge a lot of people from our email list all of the time. So people that aren't opening my emails or people who've not bought from us ever, I just trim them. I get rid of them. So we keep the email list quite compact. And it does two things. One, it improves the open rate. It means I'm not wasting people's time with pointless emails that they don't want to receive. So certainly recommend just get started with growing your audience, growing your email list. Try and use some of the tools that we talked about and some of the methods that we talked about. It's not that hard.
Okay, cool. I think we probably need to bring this to a close. So
yeah, sorry.
let me just thank. No, it's been wonderful. Don't that as a negative. I think this has been a really awesome session. And like I said, we will be doing more with you, hopefully later on this year, when we finally get out of this mad cave that we're all living in. I did just want to invite 𝗁𝐿 on stage if we can.
I've just invited him, so he should come in a second.
Okay, cool, because my screen has done its usual freezing up again. So I'm
𝗁𝐿.
very much.
Hey, 𝗁𝐿.
Great session there, Tim. Amazing stuff there.
Pleasure.
Now,
Thank
the
you.
reason I've invited 𝗁𝐿 on stage is because he's going to be leading our next session, right? And I just wanted to give him an opportunity to say hello, introduce himself, and just give us 2 seconds on what he's going to be covering.
Yeah, tough act to follow there, Tim. But hey, everybody, it's awesome to be here. My name is 𝗁𝐿. So I'm co-founder of a company called 𝗁𝐷𝑒, a London-based company. And I'll be talking about how to audit your PPC campaigns. So quite from the one today, but that's, I guess, part of the beauty of the group is a variety of topics there. And so I'll be covering everything from sort of the more strategic things around, does it align, is what you're doing on the PPC side actually align with your business goals? But also very tactical things like how do I, if I have 10 minutes to optimize my campaigns, how best should I spend those 10 minutes? Where do I need to focus? And I'll be doing that through a tool that we've developed, which I'll sort of demonstrate as well. But, I think it's pretty timely, given everything that's going on here, of where to focus your energy on the PPC side. I mean, ultimately for us, even though it's a PPC tool, you need to be much more concerned around the other areas of your business, frankly. Managing suppliers and freight forwarders and everything else that's going on in these times. So, but we can tell you, as I say, if you've got 10 minutes, what should you be doing to help optimize and does it align with your goals?
Yeah. And it's actually quite topical for many of us. Either we are having to lower our PPC bill.
Yeah.
Maybe we're not getting inventory in from China, or we've run out of inventory, or we're about to run out of inventory. And in some cases, we do have access to inventory, but we're having to use maybe fulfillment by no longer using fulfillment by Amazon, but
the other FBMs and everything else. Yeah, absolutely.
And so we do want to drive as many of our sales, and PPC would help in those situations. And I believe there's quite a lot of information that indicates that some of the costs are not as high as they have been in certain categories.
Agreed.
Because of what's going on right now. So it'll really help us, I think, to get some insight from a tool that's as clever as yours and your guys as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very much looking forward to all the questions and everything else, and very much an open forum, and would love to hear feedback. Cool. Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, cool. Excellent. Good. Well, I think, Christian, is there anything else you wanted to add before we bring it?
No, I think that's all. I think we covered all the questions. Just give me 1 second, just quickly check Facebook.
So we are going to get this video up, right?
Yes.
And
everyone who's on the call will get an email link sent to them after it's uploaded, which they can access to watch the replay. And then if anyone missed it and anybody who wants to watch it, then you can send them to the original sign-up link and they can register afterwards and just watch the recording instead of watching it live.
One thing I'll add is I'll make available the slide deck.
Okay.
Because obviously I changed some of the slides from when I first sent it to Shelley. Okay. So I'll send the latest slide deck so everybody's got access to those. You can do as and what you want like with them. So I'll forward that on to you.
Awesome. Great stuff. Thank you very, very much. And thanks to everyone for missing some time in the sun to join us today. I presume you have a garden, by the way. I'm not suggesting you go out and do anything illegal. So, yeah, it was great to see you all. And thank you very much. And goodbye.
Take care, everyone.